If you're running Azure Virtual Desktop through Nerdio Manager for MSP, you probably have way too many golden images and not a lot of consistency in how secure they are. In this video, I'm going to show you how to turn on CIS hardened images inside Nerdio Manager for MSP so your AVD host and VMs start from a pre-hardened benchmark security baseline without you rebuilding Windows from scratch. Let's talk CIS hardened images and Nerdio Manager for MSP in this MS Cloud Bros video. Hey everyone, I'm Jeremy Wallace, Microsoft MVP, Nerdio MVP, and Solutions Architect for Azure, and as such I spend a lot of time in Azure, AVD, and Nerdio Manager for MSP. This is video 1 in a short series on CIS hardened images with Nerdio Manager for MSP. Today, we're going to do two things. One, get clear on what CIS hardening actually is, what the CIS benchmarks and level 1 mean, and why this should be your default standard image baseline. And then 2, we're going to walk through how to enable and start using CIS hardened images in Nerdio Manager for MSP for your AVD and VM workloads. Before we touch Nerdio, we need to understand what CIS hardened actually means. The Center for Internet Security, CIS, is a nonprofit that publishes the CIS controls and the CIS benchmarks. The benchmarks are detailed, community-developed secure configuration guides for specific platforms like Windows, Linux, SQL Server, and so on. Think of them as expert opinionated checklists for how an operating system should be configured to reduce risk. When you say an image is CIS hardened, you're saying the OS has been configured according to those benchmarks. For Windows and Linux, that includes things like which services are enabled, how auditing and logging are configured, local security policies, and remote access settings. The benchmarks are split into 2 levels. Level 1 is intended as generally applicable baseline that improves security while still letting people get work done. And then level 2 is more restrictive and used in higher security environments, and there are additional profiles that align with requirements, like STIG. A CIS hardened image is a VM image where those benchmark settings have been applied and then validated with CIS's own assessment tool, Syscat. That validation matters. CIS doesn't just publish a document and leave it there. The image is actually assessed against the benchmarks, and the reports ship on the image so you can see how it's scored. Now, let's put that in an Azure context. Microsoft's compliance documentation for the CIS benchmarks calls out that CIS hardened images on Microsoft Azure are Azure certified images pre-configured to the security recommendations of the CIS benchmarks delivered through the Azure Marketplace. If you search the Marketplace for Center of Internet Security, you'll see offers like CIS hardened image on Microsoft Windows 11 Enterprise, CIS hardened image on Microsoft Windows 11 Enterprise Multi-Session, CIS hardened images from multiple Windows Server versions, and similar images for supported Linux distributions. Open one of the Windows Enterprise listings and you'll see a few key points. The image is pre-hardened according to the relevant CIS benchmark. It's updated and patched monthly in sync with the Microsoft Patch Tuesday. It can be provided in profiles like Level 1, Level 2, or STIG, depending on the offer. Each image also ships with proof. On the VM, you'll find a folder, typically C/CIS hardening reports, that includes a base Syscat report, the assessment before the benchmark is applied, Syscat report, the assessment after the hardening, and then exceptions.txt, any recommendations not applied, and the documented rationale. This gives you concrete evidence from CIS's own tooling that this particular image aligns with a specific benchmark profile. Now, why should you care about any of this as a Nerdio Manager for MSP shop? Nerdio has a native integration for CIS hardened images and a partnership with CIS. In their documentation, they describe these as images that come pre-hardened in accordance with CIS benchmarks and increased security settings and increased costs, and they state that Nerdio Manager lets you use CIS hardened images when creating global images, host pools, or hosts. From an MSP perspective, this does a few important things. You standardize on a CIS Hardened base image from the Azure Marketplace instead of everyone inventing their own secure image. You deploy that baseline consistently through Nerdio across your AVD host pools and VMs. You have syscat reports on disk to prove what's been applied if a client or security team or auditor asks. Now, Nerdio also calls out that using CIS hardened images helps you achieve or align with major frameworks like DoD, cloud computing, SRG, PCI DSS, FSMA, FedRAMP, NIST, when combined with the rest of your security controls. And on the Microsoft side, Entra documentation notes that CIS hardened Windows images in Azure support Microsoft Entra ID sign-in for Windows Enterprise and Windows Server, so they fit naturally into AVD and Entra-based access patterns that you may already use. Let's walk through how to turn this on in Nerdio Manager for MSP. This is an MSP level setting. So in Nerdio Manager for MSP, 1, go to the MSP view and click Settings. 2, open the Integration section. And then 3, find the tile for Center for Internet Security. Then under that, you'll see CIS Hardened images listed as disabled by default. And then click it, review the details, accept the CIS Hardened images end user license agreement, and then click Enable. Until you do this, CIS Hardened images are not available anywhere in your Nerdio account. But once you enable the integration, CIS Hardened images become selectable whenever you create global images, host pools, or individual hosts. From there, your workflow doesn't really change. You choose a CIS Hardened image as the base, and when you create new image in Nerdio, you layer your standard applications and configuration scripts on top. You capture that as a global image, and then you assign it to your AVD host pools. Nerdio's documentation also notes that CIS Hardened images in NMM does not support unified application management out of the box. So officially, you should treat them as bases for your images and hosts, not something UAM is designed to work for. But that said, I know from experiences that you can open up these images so that you can utilize unified application management in Nerdio. That behavior isn't described in the current Nerdio documentation, so you need to treat it as a use as your own risk and test it carefully in your own environment. In the future video, I'll walk through a step-by-step process of how we approach this. After you've deployed a host or VM from a CIS Hardened image, check the evidence at least once so you know exactly where it lives. Log into a VM built from that image and browse to the C drive CIS Hardening reports. You should see base syscatreport.html, syscatreport.html, and exceptions.txt. Those are the same components described in the Azure Marketplace listing and referenced in Nerdio's docs. The before and after assessments, and the list of any exceptions. If you need to show that a particular host pool is running on a CIS Hardened baseline, you can point to those reports on a representative host built from that same image. So to wrap up this first video, CIS hardening means configuring your operating system according to a consensus-based security benchmarks from the Center of Internet Security and validating that configuration with tools like Syscat. In Azure, CIS hardened images are Azure certified marketplace images pre-configured to those CIS benchmarks, updated monthly and shipped with Syscat reports and an exception file on the C drive so you can see exactly what was applied. In Nerdio Manager for MSP, there's a built-in integration that once enabled at the MSP level lets you use CIS hardened images for creating global images, host pools, and hosts, giving you a consistent hardened baseline for your AVD and VM workloads. And because these images are designed to help you align with major frameworks like DoD, FSMA, FedRAMP, NIST, they give you much stronger evidence-backed story when you talk to clients and stakeholders about how you're securing their virtual desktops. In the next video, I'll go deeper into how to design a practical CIS image strategy around Nerdio, things like choosing which CIS images to standardize on, how to handle application compatibility, and how to manage versioning and rollouts across multiple clients. If this was helpful, hit subscribe and drop a comment with your questions about CIS hardened images, Nerdio, or Azure Virtual Desktop, and I'll hit on those in future videos. See you on the next one.